It was late at night. The wind was strong, and rain hit the roof of Jake's small wooden cabin. He lived alone, deep in the forest, far from any city. Most people in town said he liked to be alone. They called him the quiet man, but Jake didn't mind. He liked peace. He liked the sound of trees and animals more than people talking. That night, something strange happened. Suddenly, Jake heard a loud sound boom. It shook the ground and made birds fly up in the dark sky. A flash of red light crossed over the trees. It wasn't lightning. It wasn't thunder. It looked like something was falling from the sky. Burning Jake stood up quickly and grabbed his flashlight. His dog, Rusty, barked and ran to the door. "Stay here," Jake told the dog. But he was too curious. He had to know what it was. Jake put on his coat, boots, and ran into the wet forest. The rain hit his face, and the ground was slippery. But he followed the smoke and fire smell. It took him almost 20 minutes, and then he saw it. There was a big hole in the ground, trees broken all around. In the center was something metal, not a plane, not a satellite. It looked like a silver egg with lights blinking on its sides. Smoke rose from it. "A crash," Jake whispered. "But this isn't human." The metal egg made a hissing sound. A side of it opened slowly. Oh God. Jake stepped back, ready to run, but then he heard something. A weak voice. A soft cry. He shined his flashlight inside the pod. There, lying on the floor, was a woman. But she wasn't human. She had glowing blue skin, long white hair, and eyes like stars. Her body was thin, and she looked hurt. But the thing that shocked Jake most was her belly. She was pregnant. She looked at him. Her lips moved. "Help, please," she said in broken English. Her voice was soft and tired. Her arms trembled. As she tried to sit up, Jake's heart raced. Every part of him screamed, "Run!" But her eyes, they looked scared. Not dangerous, not evil, just scared. And in pain. He dropped to one knee beside her. "You're hurt," he said. "Don't move." She touched her belly. Baby. Soon Jake didn't understand alien things. But he understood one thing: she needed help. He took off his jacket and gently wrapped it around her. "I'm going to take you somewhere safe," he said. She nodded slowly. Jake looked at the pod. It was still hot and cracked. It might explode. He didn't have time to waste. Carefully, he lifted her in his arms. She was lighter than he expected. She closed her eyes and rested her head on his chest. As he walked back through the forest, he felt fear. What if someone saw him? What if those men in black suits from the movies came for her? What if she died in his arms? But when he looked down at her face, something inside him changed. He didn't see an alien. He saw a woman, about to become a mother. And no one deserved to die like that, not on Earth. Not while he was around. Back at the cabin, he placed her gently on his couch. Rusty barked once, but stopped when he saw Jake's face. Jake said to the dog, "She's hurt." He grabbed blankets, water, and a first aid box. He tried to clean her wounds. She opened her eyes now and then, watching him carefully. Her eyes were bright and deep, like galaxies. Jake gave her water. She drank slowly. "Name?" he asked. "Elira." She whispered, "My name is Elira." Jake nodded. "Elira, I'm Jake." She looked at him, her hands resting on her stomach. "Thank you, Jake." He didn't know what to say. This was the strangest night of his life. But one thing was clear: he had made a promise to himself the moment he picked her up. He would protect her, no matter what came next. Morning came slow and quiet. The forest outside was wet and foggy. Rain still tapped lightly on the roof of Jake's cabin. Birds chirped in the distance, but inside, the air was thick with tension. Jake sat in a chair beside the couch, watching the strange woman sleep. Elira? That was her name. Her glowing blue skin looked soft and smooth, but her body was bruised and weak. Her white hair fell over the edge of the pillow. Her belly round and full rose and fell gently with each breath. She was still alive. But Jake didn't know for how long. Rusty, his loyal dog, sat near the door. He didn't bark anymore. He just watched her too, confused and calm. Jake rubbed his tired eyes. "What did I bring into my home?" T whispered. Suddenly, Elira's eyes opened. She looked straight at him. No fear now, just sadness. "You stayed," she said softly. Jake stood and walked over. "You passed out last night. I didn't know if you'd make it." Elira tried to sit up, but winced. Her hands held her belly. "The baby?" Jake asked. She closed her eyes and nodded. "Still safe, but not much time." Jake took a deep breath. "Who's after you?" Elira looked toward the window. Her glowing eyes narrowed. "Hunters, from my world. They want my child." "Why?" Elira shook her head slowly. "My baby is not normal. Too strong. Too different." Jake frowned. "And you came here to Earth?" She nodded again. "Only place left. Only place safe." Jake felt like the ground under him was moving. This wasn't just a rescue anymore. This was something bigger. He wasn't just hiding a lost travel. He was protecting a mother and a baby that others wanted gone. He walked to the window and peeked out. The trees were still, but his gut said danger was coming. Then a sound broke the silence, a car engine. Jake's head snapped toward the road. No one ever came here. Not unless they had a reason. He grabbed his old binoculars and looked through them from the window. Black vans slowly moved through the trees. No license plate, tinted windows. Jake's stomach dropped. "They're here," he said. Elira struggled to sit up. Her hands clutched her stomach. "They found us." Jake moved fast. "You can't stay in the living room. They see you through the window." He helped her up and guided her to the hidden trapdoor in the corner of the cabin. It led to the old basement, dark and cold, filled with supplies and tools. "Go down. Stay quiet. Don't come out until I say." Elira looked into his eyes. "Why? Help me." Jake paused. His voice was steady, "Because no one else will." He opened the trapdoor, and she climbed down slowly. He handed her a blanket and a bottle of water, then closed it gently and pulled the rug back over. A knock came at the front door. Knock, knock, knock. Jake's heart pounded. He grabbed his shotgun not to shoot, but to look like he was serious. He opened the door just a crack. Two men stood outside. Both wore black suits. Their faces were hard and cold. One smiled, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. "Good morning, sir," the smiling one said. "We're from the Environmental Safety Division. Something crashed nearby last night. Did you see or hear anything unusual?" Jake kept his face blank. "Just thunder. Lot of rain." The man nodded slowly. "Mind if we take a look around?" Jake stepped outside and shut the door behind him. "My land's private. You've got a warrant." The smile faded. "We're not the police," I figured. The second man looked toward the cabin windows. "Living alone, are you?" Jake tightened his grip on the shotgun. "Just me and my dog." There was a long silence. Then the first man smiled again. "If you see anything strange, glowing, maybe, you let us know." Jake nodded. "Sure." They walked back to their van. Jake didn't move until they drove away, their tires leaving deep lines in the mud. Once they were gone, he opened the trapdoor. Elira was sitting in the corner, holding her stomach, her face pale. "They know," she said. Jake nodded. "But they don't know you're here. Not yet." Elira looked up at him with tired eyes. "You are strange for a human." Jake smiled a little. "You're not the first to say that." Then Elira said something that made him freeze. "My baby knows your voice." Jake blinked. "What do you mean?" Elira placed his hand on her belly, and then he felt it. A soft kick. Gentle, like a thank you. The stars above the cabin were shining bright that night. The rain had stopped, and the sky was clear. But inside the cabin, everything was quiet to quiet. Jake sat at the small wooden table, sharpening his old hunting knife. He wasn't sure why. Maybe to feel ready. Maybe to calm his nerves. Rusty. The dog lay near the fire, his ears twitching every now and then. He seemed nervous to dot down in the basement. Elira had barely moved. She was resting, but Jake could feel something was changing. She hadn't eaten much. Her breathing was slower. Her hands always stayed on her stomach. Then it happened. A sharp cry echoed from below. Jake dropped the knife and ran to the trapdoor. Elira. Another cry louder, full of pain. Jake threw the trapdoor open and climbed down fast. The moment he reached her, he saw it. Elira was on the floor, sweating, shaking. Her hands gripped her belly. Her eyes were wide with fear. "It's time," she whispered. Jake's heart began to race. Okay. Just stay calm." He had no experience. He wasn't a doctor. He had never even seen a baby being born. And now an alien woman was about to give birth in his basement. He grabbed clean towels, water, and everything he could find that looked useful. Elira screamed, holding her stomach. "Too early," she said, gasping. "Not ready, but coming." Jake knelt beside her. "You're not alone. I'm here." She looked at him with tear-filled eyes. "I don't want them to die." "They won't," Jake said. "I won't let them." Time felt strange. Minutes felt like hours. Elira cried and shouted in her language. Her body shook with pain. The basement filled with the sound of new life struggling to come. Jake held her hand. "You're doing great," he kept saying. "You're strong." Finally, after what felt like forever, Elira let out one final scream. The room fell silent. Then, a sound broke the silence. A small, soft cry. Jake's eyes widened. In his arms was a tiny baby glowing, warm, and breathing. He quickly wrapped the newborn in a soft towel. But Elira was not done. She groaned again. "There's another," she said. Jake's heart skipped. "Twins." She nodded weakly. "Yes." A few minutes later, the second baby arrived. A little smaller, but still glowing softly, just like the first. Jake gently wrapped this one too, his hands shaking. He placed both babies next to their mother. Elira looked at them, eyes full of joy and tears. "They are safe," she whispered. Jake sat back, his hands bloody, his face pale, but his heart full. He had just helped bring 2 lives into the world. Not human lives, but life all the same. The babies were beautiful. They had soft skin that shimmered like moonlight. Their tiny hands moved slowly, reaching toward Elira's fingers. Their eyes were closed, but their presence filled the room with warmth. Jake looked at Elira. She was weak, breathing slowly, her skin losing its glow. "You need rest," he said. She smiled faintly. "No, I need to tell you something." Jake leaned closer. "They are part of you now," she said. "Not by blood, but by bond." "I don't understand," Jake replied. She touched his chest with shaking fingers. "They heard your voice in the pod, felt your heart. You were the first safe thing they knew." Jake didn't know what to say. He looked at the babies again. One of them made a soft cooing sound. The other yawned. "I don't know how to raise alien kids," he said softly. "You'll learn," Elira whispered. "You have a good heart." Her hand dropped. Her eyes began to close. "Elira, hey, stay with me." She smiled once more. "Promise me anything. Keep them safe." "I will. I promise." And with that, she closed her eyes and her body began to shimmer. A soft white light surrounded her. Jake gasped. Elira's form slowly turned into tiny glowing dust-like stars, breaking apart, floating gently into the air. "No," Jake whispered. In seconds, she was gone. Only her necklace remained. A small silver charm shaped like a leaf, glowing faintly. Jake picked it up and held it tightly. The babies didn't cry. They just curled up beside each other, peaceful and warm. Jake sat there for a long time, holding the necklace, looking at the children. He didn't know what the future would bring. He didn't know who or what might come after them. But he knew one thing. They were his, now. Night had returned. But this night was different. Quiet, heavy. Sad Jake sat alone on the basement floor. The soft light from a single lantern glowed around him. In his hands, he held Elira's necklace, the only thing left of her now. The baby's two tiny alien twins slept peacefully wrapped in old blankets beside him. Their soft breathing and glowing skin made the darkness feel less cold. He looked at them, eyes full of confusion and wonder. "You two don't even know what you are," he whispered. "And I don't know what I'm doing." Rusty stood at the top of the stairs, not barking, just watching. Jake slowly stood up and carried the babies upstairs, one in each arm. He laid them in a box filled with pillows and soft towels. It wasn't a crib, but it was the best he could do for now. He sat on the edge of his couch, rubbing his tired face. Everything had changed in just 2 days. First, he found a glowing woman in the woods. Then, he helped her give birth. Now she was gonna land. He was holding her last words in his heart. "Keep them safe." Jake stared at the fire. It crackled gently, warming the cabin. But his mind was full of questions. What were these babies? Why were they so important? What kind of danger was coming? And could he really raise them? He stood and walked to the window. The stars were shining again, just like the night Elira died. Maybe she was still out there, somewhere, watching them. Maybe not. But Jake spoke to her anyway. "I don't know if I'm strong enough for this," he whispered. "But I gave you my word, and I don't break my word." He turned back to the sleeping babies. "They're mine now." The next morning, Jake woke up early. He had barely slept, but the babies needed food and he had no idea what they could eat. He tried goat milk from the farm down the road. Carefully, he filled 2 small bottles and sat beside them. To his surprise, they drank. Slowly, but without trouble. "Well," he muttered, "that's one problem solved." But as the day went on, something strange began to happen. The lights in the cabin flickered. His old radio turned on by itself and started playing static. Rusty barked at the wall, where nothing was there. And the twins, they began glowing brighter. Not in a scary way, but it was clear they were changing. Jake knelt beside them. "What's going on with you two?" Then, something shocked him. The girl, her tiny eyes opened. She looked straight at Jake. Her pupils were bright purple, glowing. Like stars, she didn't cry. She simply reached up and touched his nose. And in that moment, Jake felt something inside his mind, like a whisper without sound, like a feeling that wasn't his own. He stepped back, heart pounding. "What the hell?" The baby giggled. Rusty whined softly and hid under the table. Jake sat down slowly, breathing hard. "They're not just alien," he muttered. "They're something more." As the sun went down again, Jake lit the lanterns and locked all the doors. He double-checked the windows. The black van hadn't come back yet, but he knew it would. They hadn't given up. He sat in front of the fire with the twins beside him. They were both awake now, staring at him with glowing eyes. "I don't know what powers you have," he said. "I don't know what they want from you, but I made a promise." He held Elira's necklace up. "She gave her life to keep you safe. And I will too, if I have to." Just then, one of the babies. Boy lifted his hand and pointed at Jake's chest. A soft light came from his tiny fingers. It didn't hurt. It felt warm, like comfort, like trust. Jake's eyes watered. "You understand me, don't you?" The boy smiled. Jake wiped his face and laughed quietly. "You little lights are gonna turn my whole world upside down." Later that night, Jake took a wooden box from under his bed. Inside was an old journal. He hadn't written in it for years. But now, things were different. He opened it and began to write. Day 1. I helped her give birth last night. 2 babies. Twins. Not human, but alive. Beautiful. They glow. They drink milk. They smile. They're mine now. I don't know what's coming, but I will protect them. He stopped writing and looked at their sleeping faces. I promise. I closed the book. Outside the forest was silent, but in the far distance, something watched. 2 red eyes blinked once in the shadows, then disappeared into the dark. 5 years later, the cabin looked the same from the outside dulled wood. A smoking chimney and a quiet dog resting on the porch. But inside, nothing was the same. Jake stood in the small kitchen, pouring warm milk into 2 mugs. Kale, Mira, breakfast. 2 sets of feet ran down the wooden stairs. The twins were no longer babies. They were 5 years old now, but they looked different. Kale had silver hair like his mother, but short and wild. His eyes glowed pale blue and never stopped moving, always curious. Myra's hair was longer, soft white, and her eyes were deep violet. They looked human from far away but up close. It was clear they were not. Their skin shimmered faintly in the sunlight, and strange symbols would sometimes glow on their hands and necks only. When they were scared, angry, or too happy, they sat at the table laughing and teasing each other. Mira floated her spoon with her mind again. Jake gave her a look. No floating at the table. Sorry, she whispered, giggling. Kale poked the spoon midair and it dropped with a clink. Told you he'd catch you. Jake shook his head and smiled. One day, you 2 will learn to follow the rules. No, we won't, Kale said proudly. Rusty barked from outside. The dog was older now, slower, but still sharp. Jake stepped to the door and saw nothing at first. Then he noticed something. A branch was broken near the edge of the woods, fresh. His eyes narrowed. Stay inside, he said to the twins. Myra looked up. Is someone watching again? Jake turned to her. What do you mean again? She tapped her forehead. I can feel them. From far away. They're always looking, Kale added. But they're scared of us. Jake stared at them both. He still wasn't used to the way they spoke sometimes, like they knew more than they should. Elira's children weren't normal. They were growing faster, learning faster. And sometimes, Jake could swear they could read his mind. He locked the door and walked back inside. You 2 need to be careful. We are careful, Kale said. But you don't let us leave. Jake sat down across from them. Because out there, people won't understand you. They'll be afraid. They might try to hurt you. Mira leaned forward, her eyes glowing slightly. We won't let them hurt you, Dad. That word, Dad, still made Jake's heart skip. He never told them to call him that. They just started one day like it was the most natural thing in the world. Just promise me you'll listen. Jake said. "Promise me you'll hide your powers." They both nodded, but he could tell they didn't like hiding anymore. Later that day, Jake and the twins went out to the clearing behind the cabin. The sun was bright, and the air was cool. Trees surrounded them like silent guards. Jake chopped firewood while Cale played with a stick, swinging it like a sword. Mira sat with a notebook, drawing strange symbols only she seemed to understand. "Hey, Dad," Cale called. "Can I show you something?" Jake looked up, wiping sweat from his brow. "As long as it doesn't explode." Cale laughed. He picked up a small rock, held it in both hands, and closed his eyes. The rock began to float. Then it started spinning. Then it broke into perfect half-smooth, like it had been cut with a machine. Jake's mouth opened slightly. "You've been practicing again." Cale smiled. "It doesn't even hurt my head now." Myra spoke without looking up. "I dream of things before they happen." Jake froze. "What kind of things?" "Sometimes fire, a dark sky, screams, and you bleeding." Jake's face changed. "Do you dream that a lot?" "Only when they get closer." Jake dropped the axe and walked to her. "Who are they, Mira?" She looked up. "The ones that want to take us back," Cale added, "but we're not going." Jake knelt between them. "No, you're not. I'll protect you. You can't do it alone." Myra said. Jake looked into her glowing eyes and felt the weight of truth. "Then I guess it's a good thing you two aren't just kids." Mira nodded. "We're more," Cale said quietly. "We're not human." Jake placed a hand on each of their shoulders. "No, you're not. But you're still mine." The wind picked up. The trees around them seemed to whisper, and far, far away. A red eye blinked in the shadow of a satellite above Earth. The wind had changed. Jake felt it first not on his skin, but deep inside. The air around the cabin had a heavy silence, like the forest itself was holding its breath. That night he couldn't sleep. He sat by the window, shotgun across his lap, eyes scanning the tree line. The twins were asleep upstairs, peaceful, unaware. Or at least, that's what he thought. But Mira wasn't sleeping. She opened her eyes and whispered, "They're here." It started with a humming sound. A low, deep vibration in the air. Not loud, but unnatural, like metal whispering to itself. Rusty, the old dog, stood up suddenly, growling toward the window. Jake stepped outside, flashlight in one hand, gun in the other. The trees stood still in the moonlight, till a red beam of light moved through the woods. Then he saw it. A dark figure stepped between the trees, tall, armored, in a black suit that shimmered like oil. Not human. Jake's heart dropped. Behind that one came two more. No footsteps. No voices, only glowing eyes. "Back inside," Jake muttered, backing toward the door. But it was too late. One of the hunters raised his hand, and the door behind Jake slammed shut by itself. The wood groaned like it was alive. Jake turned his gun on them. "Don't come closer." The lead hunter tilted its head. Its voice was cold, layered with static. "We are not here for you, human. Only the offspring." Jake gritted his teeth. "You're not taking them." Another voice echoed from the shadows. "They do not belong here. Their blood must be corrected." "Corrected?" Jake asked. "You mean killed?" "They are unstable," the voice said. "They are dangerous." Jake aimed. "So am I." The hunter raised a hand, but then, from the cabin, the windows glowed with soft white light. Jake turned. The twins were standing at the doorway. Myra's hair floated as if underwater. Cale's hands sparked with energy. Their eyes burned like stars. "No," Mira said, her voice calm but clear. "You will not touch him." The hunter stopped, For a moment, the forest froze. Then the lead hunter stepped forward. "You do not command us, child." Kale raised one hand and every flashlight, lantern, and light in the area shattered at once. Darkness fell, but the twins glowed. Jake shielded his eyes. "Kids, get back inside." "No," Mira said again. "They came for us. We'll end this." Hunters moved fast, but not fast enough. Kale lifted a hand and sent a wave of energy forward. Trees bent. Leaves flew. One hunter was thrown back and crashed into a thick oak. Another one tried to grab Myra, but she vanished, reappearing behind him. She touched the back of his neck, and his body froze like stone. Jake could barely breathe. What are you?" Kale turned to him. "We are your kids, Dad." It was over in minutes. The final hunter, kneeling and broken, looked up at the twins with hatred. "You will bring ruin to both worlds." Myra stepped forward. "We will bring balance." Jake lowered his shotgun. "Go back to wherever you came from and tell the others Earth isn't safe for your kind anymore." The hunter disappeared in a burst of static, fading into nothing. Silence returned. Jake dropped to his knees, breathing hard. The twins walked over to him, their glow fading slowly. "You okay, Dad?" Kale asked softly. Jake looked at them, still in shock. You could do all that this whole time?" Mira nodded. "We only use it when we must." Jake ran a hand over his face. "And I've been making you hide." "You were protecting us," Mira said, taking his hand. Jake laughed once, tired and amazed. "Well, I guess now you're protecting me." Kale grinned. "We always were." Later that night, Jake sat outside with the twins beside him, staring at the stars. "They'll come back," he said. "Won't they?" Mira nodded. "Yes, but not soon. We scared them." Jake turned to her. "What if they bring more?" Kale answered, "Then we fight." Together, Jake looked at the twins as twins, not born of his blood, but of his heart. He thought of Illyra, of her last words, and the promise he made. He had kept that promise, and now, the kids were ready to make their own. "You're not just powerful," he said. "You're good, and that's what matters." Mira leaned her head against his arm. "We had a good teacher." The stars above twinkled gently. For now, the danger was gone, but the future was still waiting, and Jake knew whatever came next. They would face it as a family. The forest was calm again. A week had passed since the hunters came. Their strange black suits and red eyes haunted Jake's memory, but the cabin was quiet now. No more whispers in the trees. No more glowing shadows watching from the dark. Just peace. Jake sat on the porch in his usual chair, drinking coffee as the early sun touched the tips of the trees. Rusty slept at his feet, snoring gently. The warmth of morning wrapped around the house like a blanket dot behind him. The door creaked open. Kale stepped out first, stretching and yawning. Mira followed, rubbing her eyes and carrying the same old notebook she never stopped writing in. "Morning, Dad," Kale said, with a smile. Jake still froze whenever they said that. He looked at them, really looked. They weren't just alien children anymore. They stood taller, more confident. The glow in their skin was dimmer during the day, but always there if you looked closely. Their powers had grown too, but so had their hearts. "Sleep well?" Jake asked. "Had a dream," Mira said, sitting on the porch rail. "Good or bad?" "Both." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Wanna explain that?" Mira tilted her head. "I saw you, older, with gray hair." Kale laughed. "He already has some gray hairs." Jake groaned. "Thanks, son." Mira smiled. "In the dream, you were. Still here, still protecting us, but people knew about us. The world knew. Jake's smile faded. And what did they do? They feared us, she whispered. But some of them loved us too. Cale nodded slowly. Tay. And we weren't hiding. Anymore? Jake looked down at his coffee. Maybe that day will come. Maybe it won't. But until then, we stay here. Safe. Together. Cale walked over and sat beside him. You ever regret it? Jake looked up. Regret what? Helping Mom. Rescuing her that night. Jake didn't speak at first. He thought about it. About the crash, the blood, the panic. Illyra's last breath. The glowing babies in his arms. He shook his head. Not for 1 second. Mira reached into her notebook and tore out a small page. Then you should have this. Jake took it. It was a drawing childlike, but full of love. It showed a man with a beard holding hands with 2 glowing kids. Above him, drawn in the sky, was a woman made of stars. Jake felt his throat tighten. You drew this. Myra nodded. That's you. That's us. And that's her. Watching? Jake folded the paper carefully and placed it in his pocket like it was treasure. Thank you, he said softly. That evening, they sat around a small fire in the backyard clearing. The sky above was full of stars. The same stars Illyra had come. From the same stars that the hunters might come from again, Cale roasted marshmallows, even though he didn't really like them. Mira stared at the fire with a distant look in her eyes. Jake leaned back in a chair, arms crossed behind his head. We should tell the world one day, Mira said suddenly. Cale looked at her. Tell them who we are. Jake opened his eyes. And what happens if the world isn't ready? Myra looked at him. Then we'll wait. But not forever. Jake nodded. One day, when the time is right, Cale poked the fire with a stick. You ever gonna let us go into town? Jake laughed. You just blasted a tree in half last week for fun. I fixed it, Mira added. You turned it into a floating chair. Jake smiled. All right. Maybe we'll go one day. You'll need hats, though. Why? To cover your glowing heads. They all laughed. Then came the silence. The warm kind, the kind where nothing needs to be said. Because everything is understood. Jake looked at the twins, then up at the stars. Your mom would be proud, he said softly. Cale leaned against him. You're our dad. Jake blinked. What? You're our dad, Cale said again, firmer this time. Mira stood up and walked in front of him. Her eyes glowed faintly. You raised us. You protected us. You loved us when we were different. You didn't run away. Jake's heart pounded. You're not our blood, she said, but you're our home. Cale stood beside her. We've always called you Dad, but now we want you to know what it means. Jake swallowed hard. For the first time in years, he felt his eyes fill with tears. I don't deserve you to, he whispered. Mira took his hand. But you have us anyway. That night, Jake wrote in his old journal again. Day 1826, they called me Dad today. Not as a word, as a truth. I never thought I would be a father not like this, but I am. And I wouldn't change a thing. They're strong, strange, glowing, beautiful. They're mine. I don't know what the stars will bring tomorrow. But tonight, I am their father, and they are my world. He closed the journal, and outside, 2 glowing children laughed under the stars.